Chris and Cielo here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So we're in the third week of December, which is crazy. I feel like the first 2 weeks have flown by, but it's also because I've been very busy. I've been trying to catch up on videos, and so far I'm doing a pretty decent job. This week, though, I'm going to focus a little less on videos and a little more on reading because it is time for me to dive into my Queer Lit Readathon TBR, and I am so excited. So, I have a ton of books that I hope to get to, some of which are on my Queer Lit Readathon TBR and others that aren't. So, the two that aren't that I'm in the midst of are Malice, and I'm reading this for the Catch Up Book Club, and Omi figured out the other day that if we read 35 pages a day for the rest of the month, we'll finish the book. So, every day I will be reading around 35 pages of this book because I will try to finish chapter. Like, I'm not going to stop in the middle of a sentence or something. So I'm already on page 38 because that's where the natural chapter break was. So I need to read another 35 pages of this tonight, and hopefully by the end of the month I will finish my reread of this. And then I'm a few chapters into the Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. This is a queer historical fiction romance. So we're going to see how this goes. This is on my Reindeer Readathon TBR, but because it is queer, I decided to throw it in this week because most of my Queer Lit Readathon TBR does not have audiobooks, and this one does, and I'm definitely going to need those as I work on planning things or making thumbnails, etc. So I thought it was a good idea to save this for this week. The book I'm planning on reading a little bit before bed is one of the books I don't have an audiobook for, and that is Moby Dyke. This is a non-fiction book that is going to dive into what happened to all of the lesbian bars that used to exist. I'm very curious about this. I think I'm going to have a good time with this, and I can't wait to dive into this. So that's where I'm going to start. I have other books. You'll see them throughout this vlog, and yeah, we're going to see how this goes, and I will check back in with you in a few days to give you an update. So it is Wednesday, and I'm checking in. I'm getting ready to film, so you're getting another clip of me in front of the tree. Cielo, you did not need to get up. You were in the video. You're a silly goose. Well, are you coming? Come here. Oh. I was hoping she'd just stay still. But no, we couldn't do that, could we? No. Anywho, I'm getting ready to film a few more videos. I'm doing really, really well in my bid to catch up on everything I need to catch up on. So we're trying to keep that momentum rolling by filming a few more videos. So you're getting another clip in front of the tree. I've read a few books so far this week. The first being Rabbit Chase. I gave this 4 stars. This is my gender-bent retelling. And it follows Amy, a non-binary kid who is dealing with some issues in school, and they are on a class trip to offer gifts to a water spirit that protects the land, and Amy accidentally wanders off from the rest of the group and follows a white rabbit to a different dimension, and from there we see a lot of Alice in Wonderlandian type things, and they have to work with the white rabbit and overcome some stuff if they want to get back to their home. I had a fun time with this. I thought it was really interesting following Amy on their journey. My apologies if the camera angle has changed. My little gremlin knocked the phone on the floor. I thought this was a fun little graphic novel. I enjoyed getting to see Amy's journey. I enjoyed getting to see the dimension they traveled to. And I liked finding all of the little nods to Alice in Wonderland. I liked the art style and thought it did a good job bringing this dimension to life. And I would also like to highlight that Amy is Indigenous. And so the characters use various terms, and there is a glossary of translations to help you understand what is being said. And I really liked how the author chose to highlight that by using the language these characters would use and then providing us who might not know those words with a translation. So I thought that was a really nice touch, and I had a fun time with this. I think this might be one of my favorite Alice in Wonderlandian type stories that I've ever read. Next, I'll mention I read The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, 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 and I gave this 5 stars. This was the book I was reading for drag, and I thought this was really, really cute. It's very, very colorful, which I think catches the eye of a child. I like that it's, based on the wheels on the bus, and I thought that was really cute. I like that the drag queens are highlighted in the front of the book. I had a really, really fun time with this. I think it's really, really cute. And I found out when I was looking on Storygraph that Little Miss Hot Mess actually has another book. So I have added that to my June TBR for the next round of the Queer Lit Readathon. I don't know if I'll be able to make it work for any of the prompts, but I have it there in case I need it. And if it's as cute as this one, I'm going to love it. Then a book I wasn't reading for the Queer Lit Readathon, but was reading for the Reindeer Readathon and chose to read it this week because it is queer. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. This follows Monty, who has a crush on his best friend Percy. And he has been given one last chance to travel before his father expects him to kind of knuckle down and start to learn his future responsibilities. So he, Percy, and his sister set off because they're going to drop his sister off at her school on the way. And he maybe steals something that maybe leads them to a spot of trouble and leads to this giant adventure where they're being chased and having to try to stay one step ahead of the people they stole this item from. I gave this 4.25 stars. I quite enjoyed this. I loved seeing Monty's relationship with Percy throughout the book. I loved seeing how his relationship with his sister Felicity changed also throughout this book. This absolutely would have worked for Disaster Queers had I wanted it to, because Monty is a bit of a disaster. There is BIPOC rep in here because Percy is a person of color. He's definitely English, but there are remarks made throughout the book about the color of his skin and the way he should be treated due to the color of his skin. So there is that rep in there, and I thought it was interesting to see how that affected their journey. I also love that Monty just doesn't care. He loves Percy anyways, even if maybe at the time that's just another reason he is a bit of a rebel, because at the time he probably shouldn't be liking boys, but also should only be liking white women. Felicity is a bit of a spitfire. I really enjoyed her character. I believe the second book is going to follow her, so I'm very intrigued to pick that up. And there also is some disability rep in here that I will let you discover as you go, because I went into it not knowing it was there. And I think it's better if you discover it as you read than if I tell you now. So there is going to be some sort of disability rep featured in this book. And so I like that there was more than just queer rep in here. I had a fun time with this. I enjoyed getting to see their journey and puzzling out a bit of a mystery with them, and just seeing Monty kind of navigate what he wants in life and his relationship with Percy. So I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm really, really glad I picked it up. And then the last book I finished is Paranorthern and the Chaos Bunny Apocalypse, and I gave this 4 stars. I was reading this for Ghosts, and this follows Abby. And Abby lives with her mom and her little sister, and her mom owns a coffee shop, a magical one at that. She helps out a lot with her sister and at the coffee shop. One day, she has her magic go haywire, and a portal opens up that accidentally releases chaos bunnies. And so she, along with the help of her friends, one of whom is a ghost, which is how I'm fulfilling the ghost prompt, have to kind of put their heads together to figure out how to close this portal and what is going on with Abby's magic. I thought this was fun. I liked seeing Abby start to puzzle things out. I like how supportive her friends were and how they all have very different personalities and how we got to see that reflected in the book. For a short graphic novel, I did think they did a really good job of showing us the personalities of the characters. I kind of want more from this. As far as I know, this is just a standalone, but I would love to see each character have their own graphic novel and kind of focus on something going on with them to learn more about each of them. But in this one, like I said, it was focused on Abby, and I really liked Abby. I thought she was stubborn but determined to figure this out without involving her mom because she didn't want to add more to her mom's already full plate. I thought the art was quite fun and vibrant and really helped to bring the story to life. This was just a really cute read, and I flew through it, so very happy I chose this one for Ghost because I needed something that was quick. That is not all I've read, though. I have started Kiss Her Once for Me, which I'm reading for Winter Holiday and Disaster Queers, and believe me, it is. I am on page 168. This is also one of my queer book club picks, so I've been reading it on sprints. And I'm really enjoying this. So this follows Ellie, who at the start of the book, we see her have this magical Christmas with a girl named Jack. But it's just one night, and then the following year, everything kind of goes awry. She'd had a job that she was really proud to have and lost it. Now she's working as a barista and hates it there. Her rent is being raised in the new year, and she's going to need some extra money, but she doesn't quite know how she's going to manage that. And she kind of mentions all of this at work in front of the owner of the building, Andrew. Andrew ends up taking her out and tells her about his troubles, which is that if he wants to get his grandfather's inheritance, he has to get married. So, once they've had a few drinks, they hatch up the scheme to have a marriage of convenience where Andrew will get his inheritance and he will give Ellie some money so that she can deal with her financial stuff. The catch being he needs her to go home with him for Christmas to sell that she's his fiance. But once she gets there, she realizes his sister is the girl from last Christmas. So hilarity has been ensuing as Ellie tries to deal with this agreement she has with Andrew while also dealing with the fact that this girl who gave her this magical Christmas and she kind of got smitten for right away is his sister. I've been having a lot of fun with this. I've found some really, really cute moments. I like the chemistry between Jack and Ellie. I've really enjoyed Andrew's family. His two grandmas are a hoot. His mom is quite interesting, and Jack's best friend Dylan adds an interesting wrinkle to this whole story. This is 1000% disaster queer, so I'm so happy I chose this for the prompt, and I cannot wait to see how this wraps up. I'm really enjoying it. Another book I'm in the middle of is Moby Dyke, and this is a book I'm using for nonfiction, community, travel, and past, present, and future. And I definitely think so far it's hitting all of those. We're following Krista, who gets an assignment to write about the disappearance of lesbian bars. So this is a nonfiction novel, which obviously covers that. And we're seeing her travel all across the United States to the lesbian bars, where she talks often about the community you find at these lesbian bars, while highlighting the past of a lot of these bars, mentioning occasionally things that have changed since she went to visit the bars. So there we see the future, and obviously the present that she's in of the state of lesbian bars as it stands. I'm on page 125, and I started out enjoying this more than I am now. So in the beginning, we got a lot about Krista's life, and I thought that was interesting to kind of set up the book. But we visited a few bars so far, and well, I think it's interesting hearing about the bars and how they came to be, how long they've been around, maybe getting to talk to a few people at the bars. I'm still hearing a lot of Krista's life, and I don't quite know what that has to do with the story of the lesbian bars and their history and their future and why things are happening. So I don't know that I'm enjoying that as much, because it's not what I'm reading this book for. I want to hear more about the bars and hear more about what people said about them. There's also this really weird scene where she's on a plane to New York City and is casting judgment against the person sitting next to her because that person isn't looking out the window and marveled by the New York City skyline. And I just thought that was a little bit weird. So, yeah. We're going to see how this goes, but my enjoyment has gone down since I started reading it because I want more focus on the bars and less focus on Krista's life. I almost forgot. I also finished The Do's and Donuts of Love. I finished this last night. I'm like looking around going, I feel like there's something missing. It's this one. So I was reading this for the Choose Your Own prompt, and I was going with BIPOC rap. So in this book, we follow Sharon, who works at her parents' donut shop, You Drive Me Glazy, and is reeling from a breakup when she gets the news that she is going to be a participant on the Junior Irish Baking Show. And she is super excited. The only problem is that one of the other contestants is her ex. Sharon isn't real excited about that, but she is excited to be on the show and is really looking forward to getting to compete and bring attention to her parents' donut shop and hopefully win the whole show. Once there, she also strikes up a friendship with one of the contestants on the show, and definitely something that could maybe be more. I give this 4.25 stars. I had a really, really good time with this. I love Sharon and getting to follow her and seeing how she navigated the competition. I enjoyed seeing Shireen navigate her relationship with her ex, Chris, and I liked seeing her develop this new relationship with this contestant she meets, Neve. I liked seeing the dynamic of that and how it played into the show and how she had to balance both of those things. I thought the competition aspect was fun. I liked seeing the challenges that they came up with and how each of the contestants kind of participated in them. I liked Shireen's relationship with her best friend and how that factored into things, and I really like seeing the aspects of her family life that we got to see as well. I just had a really, really fun time with this book, and I'm so glad that because of this readathon, this book was brought to my attention because it was just a really fun, quick, easy read, and it makes me want to read more from this author in the future because I had such a good time with it. And then, I believe, the last book I'm in the midst of is Malice, and that's because I'm reading 35 pages a day. I'm on page 149. I'm enjoying my reread of this, and I'm having fun being back in this world. This is an adult fantasy, and we're following various characters in the Banished Lands. It has been really, like I said, fun being back with these characters and getting a refresh as to what's going on with the story. And I look forward to continuing it in the coming days. So that has been my week so far. As you can see, we have a Cielo ear. I'm going to have to let her out before I keep filming because she keeps coming over and trying to knock the camera. Anywho, I'm having fun with my Queer Lit Readathon TBR so far. I'm enjoying most of what I read. And hopefully I can get to all of the other books on my TBR before the end of the week. But like I said, I gotta go let the gremlin out. So I'm gonna wrap this clip up here and I will check back in at the end of the readathon to let you know how I did. So it is time to wrap this vlog up. It's actually still Saturday, but it's only like 15 minutes till midnight and I'm done reading for the day. So I thought I would take advantage of the fact that I had a few minutes to update you before the actual end of the week. I managed to complete all of my prompts and squeeze in a few extras this week. So I'm pretty happy with what I ended up doing. I also got a lot of videos out on my channel and a lot set to go. So it has been a very, very successful week. I'm going to run you through what I ended up reading in the last few days of the week because it's a pretty nice stack. So I finished Kiss Her Once for Me, and I gave this 4.25 stars. I quite enjoyed this. I really liked the relationship between Ellie and Andrew and how that kind of developed. I like seeing how Ellie and Jack were handling the present day and getting flashbacks to seeing their Christmas the year before and how their relationship kind of came to be and how they ended up at the Christmas that was happening this year. I loved the family vibes. Jack and Andrew's family are amazing, and it gave me all the warm, fuzzy feels I was looking for. And I really like how this story wrapped up and how the author decided to end Ellie and Jack and Andrew's stories, because I got really attached to the characters throughout the book. Ellie reminds me a lot of me in the way that she thinks, and I thought that was part of why I got so attached to her, is because I could really, really relate to her. So I had a lot of fun with this book, and I definitely want to read more from this author now that I've read this one. Then I read Chef's Kiss, and I was reading this for food and graphic novel, and I gave this 4.25 stars. This follows Ben, who is fresh out of college and is living in an apartment with 3 friends. They've all got jobs lined up, and he doesn't. He went to school for writing, and he keeps applying to all of these jobs and being told, "I'm sorry, we're looking for somebody with more experience." And he's frustrated because how is he supposed to get the experience if nobody will hire him? And he's just about to throw in the towel and call his parents and tell them what's going on when he sees a sign in the window that says, "Hiring, no experience needed," and it happens to be a restaurant. Ben likes cooking, so he figures he'll give it a try, and he can always continue to look for writing jobs, but at least this would give him an income. Also, it doesn't hurt that there's a cute guy who works at the restaurant, and Ben would get to work with him. So I had a fun time with this one. This is another one I just really enjoyed my read of. I liked seeing Ben go to this restaurant where the owner is quite quirky, and he sets up these challenges for Ben, and it's interesting to see how Ben deals with them. There is a character in here that is integral to these challenges, and I will let you discover them for yourself, but I think that might be my favorite part of the whole story. I loved seeing Ben's passion for cooking and his struggle with, well, I actually kind of like this job I've got, and yet I still like writing, so what do I really want to do? And kind of that struggle of coming out of college and having gone to college for, this thing he thought he was going to be into, and then going, well, maybe that's not what I want to do. I like seeing his relationship with his new coworkers develop, as well as how his new job affects his relationship with his friends. I just thought this was a fun time, and I really enjoyed my read of it. This is another book I would not have known about without this readathon, so I'm really glad it brought it to my attention. So next, I read Breeze Spells and Bridegrooms, and I gave this 4.25 stars. I was reading this for magic and high hype, no hype, because I've never heard anybody talk about this, so it has no hype. This book follows Roger, who is a human, and Wynn, who is a fae. And they're in a world where everybody kind of has magic, but there is a testing system for that magic. And poverty is growing amongst the humans who have low scores. And Roger is trying to figure out a new way to test magic and hopefully raise that number amongst the humans. He wants to present this to the council, and the council ends up pairing him with Wynn. And him and Wynn have never gotten along, not since they were kids. So they have to enter into this partnership, and it's interesting to see that kind of develop. And then a gossip column ends up saying that Roger and Wynn are engaged, and now they kind of have to go along with it to kind of protect their family names and, to protect this testing method that they're trying to come up with. And we see their relationship develop as they work together to try to find a better way to test magic in humans. I had a really, really good time with this one as well. I loved the dynamic between Roger and Wynn and how it developed throughout the book. It was so interesting seeing them go from characters who didn't really like each other and honestly didn't really know each other to those kind of first meetings as they were trying to figure out how to go about this testing and learning more about each other's magic, to a slight friendship growing and then being thrown into this mess because a gossip column said that they're engaged, and now all of a sudden they're having to actually pretend they're engaged and intend to get married. So they're trying to figure out how to make that work between the two of them. And it was just so interesting to see how that relationship develops. I really enjoyed the flow of their relationship. I liked learning about their different magic. I thought that was really intriguing, and seeing how they kind of grew as individuals as they learned more about one another and each other's magic. I just had a really fun time with this, and I thought that the gossip column was an interesting addition, because you do get sections that are from the gossip column like point of view, where you get to read the gossip column itself. And I thought that was interesting, and how that was interspersed in what it chose to say, I think also added to the story. I think it could have been maybe a little bit shorter. Either way, I had a really, really fun time with it, and I am looking forward to continuing the series in the new year. Then a book I didn't enjoy as much, Moby Dick. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. This had so much potential. So the parts about the bars were really interesting. I liked hearing about all of the bars in all the different cities. I liked hearing a little bit about the backstory. Krista's first impressions when she walked into him, like describing the decor and the vibe. What I liked less was how much we heard about Krista's life, because I feel like I almost know more about Krista's life than I do about the bars. And that's not what I wanted out of this book. Another problem I had, and I was wondering if it was just me, but I've looked at other reviews, is Krista gets really annoyed and repeatedly states how much she dislikes being stereotyped as straight, because she's a lesbian who dresses really feminine and always wears like dresses. She doesn't wear light pants, so she always wears dresses. And so people think she's straight. And yet I had to hear, when she was describing the patrons of the bar, what kind of queer they were, including a pin queer, which is apparently a queer that likes to wear a bunch of pins and tell you all about them. And so it felt like she was stereotyping everybody she met. And I did not enjoy that. Like in the previous clip, I mentioned her observations about her seatmate on the plane and how that rubbed me the wrong way. And that just kind of continued. So I didn't particularly like that addition. So I got through it. And again, I loved hearing about the bars, and I've never been to a bar. Never in my entire life have I set foot into a bar. It's never been my scene. I grew up with an alcoholic. Alcoholism runs in my family, so I was never interested in alcohol or being around people when they were drinking. It was never really my vibe, so it was just nothing I ever really catered towards. But I love hearing about the different events. Like there's drag shows and trivia nights and community events, and just some of the things that the bars maybe do that aren't necessarily all about, you know, going out to the bar and getting a drink. Like they sometimes have day events or fundraising or community efforts, and just the idea of being able to be in a room full of people who are just like you, that sounds so appealing. And I'm a little bummed that with my agoraphobia and my germ phobia, it's not something I can really partake in. Like we have Pride here, and I'm not comfortable going because it sends my anxiety into overdrive, because I can't handle being around that many strangers, especially unmasked. So I'm sad that I don't get to experience that, because I really figured out my queer identity and got really comfortable with it during the pandemic. So I've never really gotten the opportunity to be around a ton of other queer people. So hearing about that and the bars and the community these people found in these lesbian bars was so nice, and I really enjoyed that. I just wish we had gotten to see more of that, and maybe dived into the history of some famous lesbian bars that closed, that didn't make it, that didn't survive, and why. And I don't know, I wanted more from this book than what I got. And like I said, there was too much about Krista and her life and her opinions that I didn't like. Then for disability rep, I read You Don't Know Everything, Jilly P, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This follows a young girl named Jilly who learns a lot in this book. Her little sister is born deaf. She is in this chat room designed for kids who are a fan of this book series, and one of the other kids in this chat is his name Derek? Yes, Derek, who is Black and deaf. And so when her baby sister is born, she definitely reaches out to Derek. At the same time, she's also dealing with kind of realizing the differences that her Black cousins are going to be dealing with. So she definitely reaches out to Derek in multiple ways, and makes mistakes in the way that she handles that and kind of has to learn and grow from that. So I really think this book is important because you're getting a book designed for kids to read from a place where they have the ability to hear and white privilege. And I think it's important to put that book in kids' hands. And you see Jilly throughout the book realize the privilege she has because she's white and some of the negative stuff that is happening to her cousins, to Derek, because they're black. Things that she hadn't recognized before. And I think that that is another thing that is important to put in kids' hands. But also learning a lot about deaf culture and the deaf community and how to be supportive of her little sister. And that's another one I think is important to get out to kids who aren't learning about it because they're deaf or have a deaf family member, or aren't learning about it because they're black or have a black family member, because I think you need to open up those conversations with kids. And I thought this was done in a really, really good way because I think it will make a lot of kids think. Alex Gino mentioned in the author's note, I believe, that their grandfather, both of their grandparents were deaf, and they mentioned that they had sensitivity writers to make sure that they were getting everything correct, given that they were writing this from a place of white privilege and white POV. And of course, as a person who's hearing but does have connections to the deaf community via their grandparents. So I like that they laid out that in the author's note and how important it was and some of the steps they took to make sure that they were getting everything right. And I really do think this is an important book, like I said, to put in the hands of kids who are coming from the same perspective as Jilly, because they'll be able to relate to Jilly and hopefully learn something and start that kind of important conversation. So I had a good time with this. Alex Gino never disappoints. So very much enjoyed my time with this one. Then for gift, I read Make the Season Bright, and I gave this 3.5 stars. So the reason I was using this for gift is because we're following Charlotte and Brighton. And Brighton left Charlotte at the altar 5 years ago, and events conspire that they both end up at the same Christmas celebration, not knowing the other one's going to be there, so they get the gift of a second chance. So Charlotte is a bit cold and closed off after being left at the altar. She works in a string quartet, and when one of the members of the string quartet finds out that she's got no holiday plans and that neither do the other members of the quartet, she invites the whole quartet to spend the holidays with her family. So Charlotte packs up and goes off with Sloane to her family's house. And then there's Brighton, who is working at this bar in Nashville. She has been kicked out of her band, and they blew up right after they kicked her out. And her parents end up not being able to have their normal Christmas. And when Adele finds out she has nowhere to go for Christmas, says, well, just come home with me and you can spend family Christmas with my family. And like I said, when they get there, Charlotte and Brighton have no idea that they're going to be spending Christmas together. And if that's not hard enough, Sloane and Adele's mom signs the whole group up for these like dating events where like the money that you pay to join the dating events goes to, I think it's like schools in the area. And so it's for good cause. So they can't really back out of it. And they're thrown into all of these date type situations with not only each other, but other people that live in the area. So here's my problem. One, it's got a lot more spice than I would like. And I loved the Bright Falls series, and that had spicy scenes. And those are my favorite romances I've ever read. So spice doesn't necessarily mean I can't enjoy a book. However, I did not enjoy the spice scenes when they came, how often they were, how long they were. And I think because I didn't necessarily like Brighton or Charlotte, I struggled to care about that kind of stuff. And that definitely brought down my enjoyment. Like I said, I did not particularly like Charlotte or Brighton. Like, I certainly didn't like their relationship. And I know I'm saying a lot of negative things for a book I gave 3.5 stars, but the parts I did like was I liked seeing Brighton and Adele's relationship and how that developed. I liked seeing Charlotte and Sloane's relationship as it played out. I liked seeing the characters we met in Colorado and some of the background stuff that was going on. There were moments I did like that contained the characters. I just never got attached to the characters, and I wasn't really rooting for them in their romance because I honestly thought that they would be better off without each other. So I think that was my main problem with it, is that there was stuff I really enjoyed, but I wasn't rooting for the characters and rooting for the romance, so it made it harder to stay invested in. But I didn't have a bad time, so I think 3.5 is fair. Ask me again in 6 months, and I might have lowered this a little bit, but that's where I landed. I wished I had enjoyed it more than I did, especially considering I have a very fancy edition from Illumicrate that I bought because it's pretty, and I was like, oh, it's Ashley Herring Blake. I've loved everything, including the middle grades I've read by Ashley Herring Blake. I'll love this too. Well, I liked it, sort of, but I didn't love it, so I don't really have much more to say on this one. A book I did love, though, was The Galaxy and the Ground Within, and that was, by the way, the last book I needed to read for my Queer Lit Readathon TBR, so there we go, all the prompts. This I was just reading because I wanted to. It was on my Phase 10 TBR, and it was queer, and I was trying to put in other queer books I had on my TBR this week. So this is the 4th and final book in the Wayfarers series, and these are like cozy sci-fi series. And we don't follow the same characters in any of the books, but we do tend to see at least one character that is somehow related to the original crew from the first book. And this one is no exception. I don't really want to tell you who, but basically we're following, I think it's 4 POVs of people who are on Gora, which is a planet that is perfect for like layovers. So if you need to refuel, stretch your legs, that kind of thing. It says if deep space is a highway, Gora is just your average truck stop. So that's kind of the vibe there. And a technological accident grounds all traffic. So our POVs are stuck there, and we see what they do while they're waiting for the emergency to kind of be cleared up so that they can all go about their separate ways, and how their relationships develop while being stuck on Gora. And this just gives me all the cozy sci-fi vibes I wanted. So an easy 5 stars. I was expecting it to be 5 stars. Becky Chambers never disappoints. This is a warm hug of a sci-fi. Like I said, I love how cozy it is. I like seeing the characters and the relationships develop. There's not any real high stakes. It's just a nice little cozy book that is set in space and follows various alien species as they're attempting to coexist and learn more about one another. And I love this. I love the characters we follow. Like I said, I love the relationships that develop and the conversations that are had between these characters. I love how it all wrapped up, and I'm going to miss this series so much. It is 100% a series I will be rereading in the future because I just adore it. And I love that because they're all interconnected but are kind of standalones, I can literally read whichever one I want depending on the mood I'm in and what kind of story I want to be told and which characters I want to spend time with. So absolutely love this and thought it was a great end to the series, even though I'm really sad that we won't be getting more from it. And the last book I have to update you on is Malice, and I am on page 301. So I'm making some progress in this. I've read my 35-ish pages a day. Me and Omi finished whatever chapter we're in, and I am really, really enjoying my reread of this. I think it's actually going to get a higher rating this time around than it did the first time around, so very excited to be continuing that. So that is my week. I had a very, very successful reading week. I loved most of what I read this week, and I read a lot of really fun, very different queer books, which was just amazing. I also had a very successful week channel-wise. I'm getting caught up, and I'm feeling like I'm in a really good place, and I'm actually going to be able to end the year on a high note and be in a solid place channel-wise and reading-wise. I want to thank Kathy and Rogan once again for hosting this readathon. I have a blast every time, and I love getting exposed to so many amazing queer books that maybe I never would have heard of. Hopefully you all have too, either via me or the other participants in the readathon. It's just so amazing to see the community come together and read queer books and amplify books with queer characters by queer authors. That being said, it is time to move on, and I look forward to participating in the Queer Lit Readathon in June once again. That's all for this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me rainbow emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!